You ask anybody in Korean entertainment, probably even in Asia or the world, Kang is one of the most unique rappers out there. He has a very, very different flow in his rap. He does not follow the beat. And you know how musicians, you're trained to follow the beat. You're supposed to be conscious about measures, and because that's what poetry is, it's supposed to be measured in patterns, and you just, you know, you're supposed to rhyme. But he does not follow all of those rules. That's why it's so difficult for anybody to follow him. I remember Juno, I remember 2 p.m., the boy band 2 p.m. They were in a show and they were supposed to do a karaoke, and they chose LeeSsang. They punched it. They chose a number. They punched it, and it turned out to be LeeSsang. And the reaction in Juno's face, it was just so, oh my god, of all the songs that I would ever. And then I remember Park Myung-soo of at that time the Infinite Challenge. He decided to rap one of Gary's songs, one of LeeSsang's songs, and he actually failed miserably. That when he saw Gary in the backstage, he was just like, why do you create songs that are so difficult for people? You're making people suffer. So I will do one of their songs. I will react to one of those songs, and I'll try my best to explain what I'm talking about. I hope you catch it. This song is Urijiku Mana, or Let's Meet Now. Okay, so they're a duo. This is Gary, and then the other guy is Gil. But I will also talk about how beautiful Gil's voice is. He has, oh my god, when he belts out all of those notes, he just takes you somewhere. His voice is so beautiful. Okay. Gary was actually an original member of Running Man. If you love the show Running Man, or if you watch the show Running Man, he's actually an original member, and he quit maybe like 6 years ago or 7 years ago. Okay, here we go. So he goes on, right? And then he cuts. And then he's still going on. So it does not match. It does not match the previous stanza. So, like, for example, if you do your first line, so there's a beat and then you create a melody which has a measure, right? Like, for example, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then one. So your next line should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Or you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then in the next line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then in the next line you go 5 and then 7 again. But it needs a pattern. You need to have a pattern measure. That's just what poetry is. It's about measures and rhymes and stuff. But he goes like, for example, in the first line, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in the second line, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then in the next line, he goes 1, 2. And then the next line, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He does not have a pattern. So when you think, like, if you're a trained musician, especially, if you hear the beat once and you hear the melody pattern once, you kind of know how the melody is going to go for succeeding lines. But he breaks that rule. He does not follow a measure, and so it's so hard to follow. It's because it goes against your training. He goes off beat. He not off beat, but off measure, basically. That's why it's so hard to follow, because that's just not your training as a musician. You're trained to follow patterns, and he does not. It does not have a pattern at all. So, okay. Let's go. So he has. And then you can hear you can hear the way the control Gil has of his voice, on his over his voice. He can bend it and stretch it in so many different ways. So if you go listen to in the air, he goes. He bends it, stretches it on command, and he does it so effortlessly. And then he can go smooth to street in like a split of a second. And so Gary is famous for not revising his lyrics. He said that usually, like, the first words is the most instinctive one, and therefore the words that actually captures your emotion is the rawest one. So he doesn't usually revise his lyrics. So once he writes it down, that's it. His first draft is usually his final draft. The other thing to notice, let's go back to his rapping. He throws it with so much abandon. When he delivers the lyrics, he throws it with so much abandon. It's as if the emotions of the lyrics don't actually match his delivery. So he's telling the girl in this song, let's meet. You've been crying, so let's meet, let's settle this. So he's coming off from some sort of a frustrated. He's a frustrated guy, basically. So they broke up, and then he heard that the girl is crying and stuff like that. And so he's telling the girl, okay, let's settle this. Let's talk about this. I want to understand what it is that you're feeling, but you're not talking to me. So let's meet now. So there's some sort of exhaustion in him. But in his delivery, and even in the recorded version, the delivery feels so indifferent. It doesn't match the supposed emotion of the song. And even here, he was like, yeah. It's like, yeah. So it doesn't feel like that's what he meant, basically. That's what he's saying, that let's meet now. I can't tell if you're crying or I can't tell if you're crying, you're suffering if you don't talk to me. So I don't know. Okay, so the other one, for you to understand the voice, Gil is so underrated as a singer, but he really has such a beautiful voice, and you can listen. You'll hear him. So this is the answer to a guy like me. That's Gil. See the raspiness? It sounds so rough. There's a certain roughness in his voice, and it's so masculine, so strong, but so broken. And when he hits those high notes, oh my god, you're gone. He'll just pull you and take you somewhere. You don't want to come back. So that's one sample of his voice. This is Tears. This is one of their more commercial songs that they've written. So this is still Gary. It's so rough. It's so rough, but he has so much control. It is not the kind of voice that you'd expect can hit such high notes, but he can. And he can hit it with such ease, such abandon. It doesn't feel like he's even trying. And then there's so I would recommend that you listen to some of their songs. There's Clown. That's one of my favorite. Ballerina. There's The Guy Who Can't Break Up, The Girl Who Can't Leave, or something like that. And then the answer to a guy, You're the Answer to a Guy Like Me. Yeah, they're the best group. One of the best groups I've ever listened to. Gary's definitely one of the best rappers I've ever listened to, both in the way that he writes his lyrics, in his flow, in his delivery. Gil is one of the best singers I've ever listened to. I hope that you can give them a listen.